Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephanie Cox. The first presidential debate is tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. We look at what to expect as President Biden and former President Trump go head-to-head. The Supreme Court today ruled that hospitals in Idaho can perform abortions in emergency cases only. What will this temporary order mean for the future of abortion access? A judge rejects Trump's request to challenge a search warrant for his classified documents case. What this means for the ongoing case. The House votes to defund Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas' salary. What the lawmakers are arguing. A New Jersey police officer receives a commendation for rescuing a person from a burning house. Body cam footage captures his heroic actions amid heavy smoke. And a nonprofit news organization is suing OpenAI and Microsoft for copyright infringement. What impact will this case have on developers of AI who use published content to train their systems? A federal judge presiding over former President Trump's classified documents case made a ruling today. The judge rejected Trump's request for a hearing. The defense team wanted to argue that the Justice Department provided false information to obtain a warrant to search Trump's Florida estate 2 years ago, but Judge Eileen Cannon agreed to hold a hearing on a different claim by the Trump team. They argue that prosecutors improperly breached attorney-client privilege. This claim is related to the investigation into Trump's retention of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago after he left the White House in 2021. The order is a mixed result for both sides. It also means further delays in a criminal case that has already seen multiple delays. And tonight is the first presidential debate of the season. President Biden and former President Trump will meet in Atlanta, offering their policies for the future of the nation. Here's what to look at and to expect.
As CNN unveils the stage for the first presidential debate, former President Trump leads his rival in the polls. The New York Times Siena College poll Wednesday showed Trump ahead of Biden by 4 percentage points. According to the poll, 68% of those planning to vote for him said his guilty verdict in the New York trial would make no difference to them. Trump's conviction could play a part in Thursday night's debate. The Trump campaign sent out a memo Wednesday saying they expect Biden to attack Trump over his conviction. In turn, Trump's campaign says their focus will be on the border and inflation. The Biden campaign sent out their own memo, saying Biden plans to go after Trump on abortion, the economy, the border, and Trump's claims about the 2020 election. The Biden campaign held a press conference in Atlanta ahead of the debate. Among the speakers, Republican Jeff Duncan, Georgia's former lieutenant governor.
Let's take the next 4 years as Republicans and build and heal a new party, a GOP 2.0. A party that finds leaders that are willing to embrace conservative principles and work across the aisle.
In Washington, House Speaker Mike Johnson said Trump is excited about the debate.
Spent a lot of time with him last week down at Mar-a-Lago and then on the phone over the weekend, and he's in a very good place.
CNN gave a preview of what viewers can expect to see and hear. The network said candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions and 1 minute for responses or rebuttals. During that time, the other candidate's microphone will be turned off in an attempt to prevent them from interrupting each other. Trump and Biden's first debate in 2020 was rife with interruptions.
The question is, Justice, radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe? Who's on your list?
Right. Gentlemen, I think
this
we've
is
ended
so
this.
unprecedented.
Thursday's debate will happen at CNN World Headquarters in Atlanta. Georgia has become a major swing state, which could go either way in November. Democrats have been making big investments in Georgia, with a dozen offices. The presidential debate will air live on CNN at 9 p.m. Eastern. It will also replay at 1 a.m.
Tonight, join Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer for analysis of the first presidential debate of the year. Watch the first half of The Nation Decides at 8:30 p.m. Eastern today, and our second half after the debate at 11 p.m. Eastern. And now we have 2 more significant rulings from the Supreme Court today. One deals with the opioid epidemic, and the other relates to environmental regulations.
In a major decision, the High Court blocked Purdue Pharma's bankruptcy settlement. The settlement would have shielded Purdue Pharma's wealthy Sackler family owners from lawsuits over their role in the opioid epidemic. The Supreme Court reversed a lower court ruling that granted the Sacklers immunity in exchange for paying up to $6 billion to settle thousands of lawsuits. These lawsuits accused the company of misleading marketing of OxyContin, a powerful pain medication introduced in 1996. The Biden administration challenged the settlement, arguing it abused bankruptcy protections intended for debtors in financial distress. While Purdue filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2019, the Sackler family did not. At issue was whether U.S. bankruptcy law allows Purdue's restructuring to include legal protections for the Sackler family members who have not filed for personal bankruptcy. In another ruling, the Supreme Court blocked an Environmental Protection Agency regulation aimed at reducing ozone emissions that could worsen air pollution in neighboring states. This decision handed a victory to 3 Republican-led states in the steel and fossil fuel industries that had challenged the rule. The 5-4 decision halted enforcement of the EPA's Good Neighbor Plan, which restricted ozone pollution from upwind states. The ruling also grants a halt to restrictions on U.S. Steel Corp., pipeline operator Kinder Morgan, and industry groups, while they contest the rule's legality in a lower court. According to the EPA, the rule would result in cleaner air for millions of people, saving thousands of lives. However, opponents argue the rule would impose unreasonable costs and destabilize power grids.
The Supreme Court today also ruled that hospitals in Idaho can perform abortions in emergencies for now. The ruling comes 2 years after the court ruled to overturn Roe v. Wade.
The Supreme Court ruling on Thursday reversed an earlier order that allowed Idaho's abortion ban to go into effect. The ruling came after the Biden administration sued Idaho under the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act. The federal law states that hospitals with emergency rooms that receive Medicare funding must treat the emergency medical conditions of patients in a non-discriminatory manner to anyone. Justice Elena Kagan says while these types of cases are rare, there is a significant number of women who are dealing with this situation.
Now that's the category of cases in which EMTALA says, my gosh, of course the abortion is necessary to assure that no material deterioration occurs. And yet Idaho says, sorry, no abortion here.
The 6-3 decision reinstates a lower court order that did let doctors in Idaho hospitals perform emergency abortions to protect a pregnant woman's health. Justices Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, and Clarence Thomas agreed with the Idaho ban. In the dissenting opinion, Alito says federal health care law does not require hospitals to perform abortions.
So in that situation, the hospital must stabilize the threat to the unborn child. And it seems that the plain meaning is that the hospital must try to eliminate any immediate threat to the child. But performing an abortion is antithetical to that duty.
Idaho's Attorney General says the White House is overreaching on this issue. Pro-abortion groups say they believe the decision is a temporary win, but note the legal fight is far from over.
And in a dramatic move, the House votes to block funding for the salary of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. The move came from an amendment to the DHS funding bill by Representative Andy Biggs. Only one Republican opposed it. Biggs argued taxpayers shouldn't pay an impeached official. But a separate effort by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene to reduce Mayorkas' salary to zero failed. Mayorkas is often criticized by House Republicans over border issues. He was impeached in February. The DHS funding bill also includes $600 million for former President Trump's border wall, and it also aims to stop funding for abortion access and so-called transgender health services for illegal immigrants held in ICE custody. While the House pushes forward, the Democrat-led Senate and White House threaten to veto the measure. And a nonprofit news organization is suing the maker of ChatGPT and its ally Microsoft for copyright infringement. It's the latest lawsuit from media outlets that the two companies are facing. The Center for Investigative Reporting filed a lawsuit in a federal court today. It argues that OpenAI and Microsoft used its content on their AI platforms without their permission. The organization produces the online publications Mother Jones and Reveal. The CEO calls the unauthorized use immensely dangerous and says the nonprofit's content is not a free resource. OpenAI refutes that claim, arguing that using online content that's publicly available is protected by the Fair Use Clause of U.S. copyright law. Some news organizations and content producers have entered into agreements with OpenAI and other AI producers. The deals allow the developers of AI to use content by the news organizations to train their systems for a fee. And a New Jersey police officer has received a commendation for rescuing a person from a burning house. Body cam footage captured his heroic actions amid the smoke and chaos. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
I got smoking conditions.
Officer Kevin Long was honored by the Evesham Police Department on Monday for his actions at a June 16th house fire. Long was the first to arrive on scene when he discovered that a resident was trapped inside the burning home. A video from Long's body camera shows him directing one person out of the house. He then ventures further inside to find a second person in a chair. Despite the heavy smoke, Long finds the man and drags him by his seat from the burning house. Both occupants were treated at a hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. Long was taken to a hospital for smoke inhalation, but was released shortly afterwards. The fire was contained to the kitchen of the home. The cause remains under investigation. The police department said its officers and the township's fire department demonstrated exemplary bravery and efficiency. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And next, do not go to China unless absolutely necessary. This is the warning Taiwan's government gives to its people today. It comes after Beijing threatened last week to execute so-called die-hard Taiwan independence supporters. The judgment of who is a separatist lies in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party.
The so-called crime of separatism is a political crime, and it is a political crime specific to China, which other countries do not have.
As to whether China could seek to extradite supporters of Taiwan's independence from other countries to China, Taiwan's government believes Western countries would not cooperate, but some developing countries may do that. And the purge in Chinese top military officials is going on. 2 former Chinese defense ministers were expelled from the ruling Communist Party over corruption allegations. One of them disappeared for almost 2 months last year before being removed from office. In the past year, more than 10 high-ranking officers in Chinese military and executives in military-related industries have been removed from their positions. Insiders have alleged they've been suspected of conspiring with foreign forces or simply being not loyal enough to the head of the CCP, Xi Jinping. And up ahead, Walgreens is closing some of its locations. We'll tell you why the drugstore chain is making the adjustment. That and more.
The big night is here. The current and former presidents debate to win your vote again. Watch the CNN presidential debate on CNN or simulcast here on NTD News. And catch our pre- and post-debate coverage on The Nation Decides 2024. First presidential debate with Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer. Live tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on NTD News.
Hi, folks. Do you trust this economy? What if you could receive a strong fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market or the Fed? And what if you were in control? You could turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose. What if your interest was compounded daily, you were paid monthly, and there were absolutely no fees? And what if you could have peace of mind because there was no attack on your principal if you ever needed your money back? Well, folks, there is an investment with all of these features. Investors all over the country are earning a high fixed rate of return with YRefi, and they don't care about what happens with the stock market or the Fed. And best of all, they receive their statement every month with no surprises. Would you like some more information? Just call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST. Or log on to investyrrefi.com. That's investyrrefi.com. YRefi, do well by doing good.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Days Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Days Enzyme Fermented Coffee.
Freedom is not free, and neither is the truth. In order to bring you the facts, our reporters are out there on the front lines getting the true story. Some of them served 10 years of prison in China. We've been censored on social media. Our Hong Kong printing offices were set on fire, and we've been repeatedly attacked by the Chinese Communist Party. But no matter what, we believe that you deserve the truth, and so we continue to bring the truth to light. Head on over to getepoch.com and try honest journalism that is based in truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
The glory of piano masterpieces from the Baroque, Classical, and Romantic periods. New Tang Dynasty Television invites you to join the 2024 NTD International Piano Competition. Together, we preserve and revitalize the art of authentic classical piano music. October 14th to the 19th at the Kaufman Music Center in New York City. Apply now at piano.ntdtv.com.
When they learn something new and you can just see in their faces, it's such an incredible moment. It's those moments that are my favorite.
In France, the latest polls show the nationalist group might have the absolute majority of seats in parliament. This would mark a significant change in the political landscape of the country. NTD's international correspondent David Vives has this story.
According to poll observers, numbers show the snap parliament elections is a milestone in the political life of France. 66% of voters say they will vote on Sunday, which is 17% more than in the 2022 elections. Polls show the National Rally is ahead by 35% and might even get the absolute majority of seats in parliament. Several members of parliament, journalists and publishers gathered at the Worldwide Freedom Initiative on Wednesday, an event organized by Republicans overseas. France's branch president Randy Yallows compared Le Pen's campaign to Trump's in 2016.
There is a real possibility for Mrs. Le Pen and her party to win the elections and get the majority in the parliament.
Marine Le Pen's National Rally was created in 1972 by her father, and its momentum shows a shift in how the French perceive it. Narratives presenting Le Pen's party as being racist or anti-Semitic have been around since the party's existence. The publisher of the right-wing outlet Causeur says the party's aura has changed.
If you said 20 years ago that you vote for the National Rally, no one would ever speak to you again. That was the end of your social life. Today it's different. Even though in certain places like university you don't want to say you vote for Marine Le Pen.
Yallows says he hopes to see more open dialogue as debates have been polarized during the campaign.
Mrs. Le Pen and her party are a major force in France. We must take that into consideration, and I think that's where I stand. I think it was important for me to create this dialogue.
The first round of election will be held on Sunday. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
Yesterday, we reported that Denmark became the first nation in the world to collect a carbon tax on livestock. It will cost farmers $100 per cow. And this morning, a fire broke out at Denmark's tax ministry in central Copenhagen. Danish fire services battled a blaze on the top of a building housing the country's taxation ministry in downtown Copenhagen. They brought the fire quickly under control. Video shared on social media showed fire and smoke billowing from the top of the modern 5-story block. People evacuated from the glass and steel building, as well as from other nearby buildings from the harbor front. There was no immediate word on injuries.
We went out very fast at the building, and then we got out. We could see the flames on the top of the building. So obviously the first concern was, to get all the employees out of the building and make sure that, everyone was safe and okay.
It was not immediately clear what caused the fire. Police say they're investigating. And next, high mortgage rates continue to frustrate first-time home buyers, and a major drugstore chain is shuttering some of its locations. Here's NTD's Don Ma with today's Business Matters.
Thank you, Steph. Today, help may not be on the way for first-time home buyers who are frustrated by high mortgage rates and even higher home prices. So economists at Bank of America warned this week that the U.S. housing market is, quote, stuck, and we are not convinced it will become unstuck until 2026 or later. The bank said that home prices will stay high and go even higher, and the housing shortage will persist, and mortgage rates may not fall much, even if the Federal Reserve finally delivers the long-delayed interest rate cuts. So the head of U.S. economics at Bank of America told CNN that, quote, this will take many years to work itself out. There isn't a magic fix. All right, besides that, Walgreens is set to close a substantial number of its roughly 86,000 locations across the U.S., and this comes as the drugstore chain looks to reset its struggling business. Walgreens didn't announce a specific number of store closures, but its CEO said Thursday it's planning significant closures of underperforming stores across the U.S. The CEO says that the closures will focus on locations that aren't profitable, too close to each other, or stores struggling with shoplifting losses. Major drugstore chains have lost money in recent years because of declining profits from filing prescriptions. That's due to lower reimbursement rates for prescription drugs, as well as new competition from mail-order pharmacies. The front end of drugstores, that's where they sell snacks and household staples, also face pressure from larger competitors, for example, Target and dollar stores. Okay, that's all from me. Back to you, Steph.
Thank you, Don. Next, facing the prospect of mounting student loan debt, young people are starting to look for ways to launch a career without the huge price tag. NTD's Andrew Thomas spoke with a political economist about some of the practical and lucrative opportunities out there right now for Gen Z.
You have to go to college to get a good job. Well, that used to be the conventional wisdom anyway, but with more than 40 million Americans and more than $1.6 trillion of debt, a degree might not be so valuable. What are the benefits of learning a trade or going to trade school instead of going to college?
Well, there's a baseline need for plumbers, electricians, roofers, welders, whatever it might be. People always need those services. Home improvement, patio, bricklaying, patio, cement work, all those kinds of trades, there's always a need for them, and they're not cheap.
Not only are these jobs available, they pay well. For example, an electrician apprentice makes around $40,000 their first year. Experienced electricians can make upwards of $100,000 annually, but some still thumb their nose at the trades. How have cultural attitudes changed towards trade school and college over the generations?
That's a really good question, and the answer is that they've been looked down upon, and there's been a kind of a view that it's second class. You're a second class citizen if you work with your hands, if you're a tradesperson, right? But that's really not the case.
Political economist James Corey explains how tradespeople can scale their businesses while pursuing other opportunities as well.
In fact, I met a gal who started her own maid business, and now she employs probably 2,000 or 3,000 maids, and she's a multimillionaire, and she's a real estate investor now. She started out being a maid, and then hired other maids, and then became a very successful maid business, and then now she's a real estate investor, and still has the maid business.
What advice or what tips do you have for Gen Zers that are considering a profession in the trades?
Have a plan. I'm going to learn this trade in a year. I'll move from proficient to expert in 2 years. I'm going to learn the business and how it works and network. So, meeting other people in the same industry or related industries is a terrific way to build your business, because business is really about people, it's relationships.
Corey adds that going into the trades can be an arduous endeavor, but it beats living with your parents. Andrew Thomas, NTD News. And
a Russian satellite has broken up into more than 100 pieces in orbit. The incident forced astronauts on the International Space Station to take shelter for about an hour. There were no immediate details on what caused the satellite to break up. U.S. Space Command is tracking the debris and says there is no immediate threat. The satellite was used for observing Earth. In 2021, Russia struck one of its defunct satellites with a ground-based missile. The incident sparked international outrage when it created thousands of pieces of debris. The prospect of satellite collisions and space warfare is prompting calls for an international mechanism of managing space traffic. And in Illinois, a soccer complex has to close down due to an underground mine collapse. The cave-in created a massive sinkhole that took the playing field with it. Take a look.
An enormous 100-foot-wide sinkhole swallowed up a large section of an Illinois soccer field, and the colossal cave-in was actually caught on camera. Alton Parks and Recreation released video showing the moment the ground gave way, taking with it a light pole and a huge section of the field. A local construction company says an underground working mine collapsed, causing the unexpected cave-in, which thankfully resulted in no injuries. Park management immediately took to social media, warning locals to stay away while they conduct an investigation of the surreal sunken situation.
Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephania Cox. Join Tiffany Meyer for the NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern,